Welcome to the Awakening Together channel here on YouTube. This is our Awakening Together weekly gathering. Each and every week we have a different minister who speaks. If you'd like to attend our services live, please visit our website awakening-together.org. Click on Online Sanctuary on the main menu. Then, How to Enter the Sanctuary. Our services are held Sundays at 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time. We'd love to see you in the sanctuary.
Welcome everyone to our Awakening Together Sunday service, and welcome again. Let me share our purpose and a core value for today. We are an assembly of equals joined in common purpose, awakening to one true self within the appearance of many faiths, many cultures, and many symbols. And we seek to discern one truth and to rest in its embrace. The core value that I selected this morning is core value number 1. We trust everyone is led by unique inner guidance to one experience called awakening, which is the realization of one true self. We live by this value by supporting one another on different paths to awakening. What a wonderful world. And if that's not your experience, we're going to talk about that today. Being in the world, but not of the world. And so I'd invite you to join me as we share with Spirit our prayer for this time here. Thank you so much, Father God. Thank you for being. Thank you for beingness. And thank you for allowing us to have that experience of oneness with you. We do not know what you will share with us today, but it will be the words that we need to hear, the lessons that we need to learn. And so I thank you as we ask for guidance of Spirit, and thank you for the blessings that you have bestowed upon us. Amen. Okay, well, we have a reading to start out with. Reverend Toni Fields is our reader today, so and I hope I didn't confuse you, Toni, about what the readings actually were. So anyway, here we go. Go ahead, Reverend Toni.
Thank you, George, and thank you for the clarification on the readings. I appreciated that. This morning, I'm going to read from the Bible, John chapter 1 and the first 5 verses. In the beginning was the Word. The Word was God's presence, and the Word was God. He was present to God in the beginning. Through him, all things came into being, and apart from him, nothing came to be. Whatever came to be in him found life for the light of men. The light shines on in darkness, a darkness that did not overcome it. And then the next reading is going to be from NTI, John chapter 1, verses 1 through 5. The Word of God is the voice for God. They are one and the same, as they cannot be separate. One is an extension of the other. In this extension, sameness is contained. Where there is sameness, there cannot be difference. Where the voice for God is also, in all of his fullness and his glory. The voice for God has always been, since the beginning of time and before. He is the overseer of all things, as all things were made. he saw that they were good. It was not through his wish that the earth and the stars and the heavens were made, but it was through his knowledge that they were blessed. In him was life, and through him was life and light given to all things that were made. In him lies the light of men. Men shall be known by their light. The light is in all men and with all men. The light does not fade or wither, but the darkness that fills the sight of man does not see the light or choose to know it. And so the light waits on welcome, that it may be known. And then I'm going to move on to NTI, John chapter 13. Service is surrender. It is surrender to the light that will make the light known to you. To surrender to the light is to become one with it, which is to lay aside any will that would seem to be different. You experience the world that you experience because it is your will to do so. To experience a world that is different from what the world that you experience, you must take up another will as your own. This is service, and service can only be accomplished by the full surrender of the will you are not to serve. For will must be a leader, and you must be a follower. To serve the will of one is not to serve the will of the other. So you must pick the one you will serve and relinquish the other. There is only one choice that you can make if you are to learn unconflicted servant. You must serve the light, because the light is present in all things. The light is one eternal will. To serve is to serve the light, for to be conflicted is not to have decided, and so it is not to have made the choice to serve. Joy comes from the choice to serve, because the choice to serve is the choice to relinquish conflict. The conflicted servant cannot know joy because he has not made the decision to serve, and so he must be unsettled in his heart. For he knows he is a servant, and he knows it is his will to serve, but he has not matched his will to his will, capital W, and so he seems to betray himself. Fear not. Confusion cannot last. Confusion calls out to be healed, so that all confusion calls to the one will that would heal it. That one will is the alignment of will without the conflict of a separate will to confuse it. Accept the light by accepting one will, and you accept the one will of the light. And with that, you accept all things, for all things are of one will. For there is only one will in reality. The will of all things is love, and love is the will under which all things operate. For where there is not love, there is nothing, as love is all there is. Why do you not see love if love is all there is? It is your fear that hides the truth from you. What do you fear that you should hide your face from love? You fear one will. And knowing that one will must be love, you also fear love. This is why you choose conflict. It is not love. And you fear love because you fear one will. And you know that one will, without conflict, must be love. I'm going to also read NTI John chapter 14. Know that you seek love, for you do know this. Lay down the will that leads you to seek not for what you want. Trust in God, which is to trust the guidance of one will. Do not fear that which you want, for fear only serves to keep you from you, since you are that which you seek. My Father's house has many rooms means we are all one. Come with me to the house that is our home. It is the realization of our oneness through the acceptance of our one combined will. One will is one will without an element of separateness. I am within my Father, and my Father is within me, means there is no difference between us and no part of us that is not the same. I am the way and the truth and the life, means all reality is within me, and I am in all reality. What I am, you are also. I am within the Father, and the Father is within me. I am within you, and you are within me. You are within the Father, and the Father is within you. There is no difference among us. We are complete and the same. Reality is within us, and we are reality. Within you, there is a voice that speaks of truth. This voice is the Comforter, because it speaks of what you are. You are comforted by this voice because you recognize the truth that it speaks, and you desire to know the truth again. This is the call of your heart, to know itself within its reality and to let go of what it is not, that it may know only that which it is. Any belief in separateness is a denial of the truth, but a denial of the truth does not change the truth of which you are. I am always with you because I cannot be separate from you, and you cannot be separate from me. Where you go, I go, and so I am there also. I am in all that you see, waiting only for your decision to see me, that you may know my joy for knowing that I am. Thank you again, George.
Thank you, Toni. So, well, let's see what Spirit has to say about this. I never know what's going to come out in our homily. And so I'm as surprised as any of you. So we'll see what is shared with us. So, the reason that I chose John chapter 1 was this, the Bible, the first 5 verses of the Bible, one of my favorite verses out of the Bible. In the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning, and through him all things were made. Without him nothing was made that has been made. In him was life, and that life was the light of all mankind. And the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. So I like the NTI explanation. The Word of God is the voice for God. They are one and the same, as they cannot be separate. One is an extension of the other, and in this extension, sameness is continued. Where there is sameness, there cannot be difference. Where the voice for God is also in all of his fullness and glory. The voice for God has always been since the beginning of time and before, and he is the overseer of all things, as all things were made. And he saw that they were good. It was not through his wish that the earth and the stars and the heavens were made, but it was through his knowledge that they were blessed. And in him was life, and through him was life and light, given to all things that were made, and in him lies the light of men, and men shall be known by their light. The light is in all men and with all men, and the light does not fade or wither, but darkness that fills the sight of man does not see the light or choose to know it. And so the light waits on welcome that it may be known. So I reread that because it has such a powerful message that we are, they refer to us as the men. The light is in all men and with all men. And so what we're going to talk about today is how do we have that experience of being the light, the beingness, that conscious awareness of who we truly are. So, one of the things that we can focus on is simply holding that desire to know truth, to understand. As we identify as a separate person living in the world, we have this program that it is simply the way life is. It's relatively easy to feel that God is not really a part of it, that God even doesn't exist, that God is just a concept created to make people feel better about the shortness of the life that you're going to experience. From birth to death, each one of us knows that this life is a limited life. And from an egoic standpoint, we're simply looking at this life and trying to understand where we fit in and how we can enjoy it. But that fear of death is always in the back of our mind. It doesn't matter whether we live, how long we live. There's that day of reckoning that the story of your life is going to end. The story of George is going to end. And so how do we deal with that? Well, there's no answers really within this egoic understanding of what life's all about. It's an illusion. It's totally and completely an illusion. So how do we overcome that? Every religion in the world really has the answer, but there is so much information out there, it's somewhat confusing, and it's easy to be distracted and misled by the beliefs. The truth is cluttered, a little bit of truth is covered by a lot of misperception and misdirection. And so how do we actually make that connection with spirit, that spirit within us, that Holy Spirit within us, that right mind within us? So that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today. I want to go to Matthew briefly. Matthew 6. So Matthew chapter 6. If you are to walk the path of righteousness, all things must be done for the reason of the heart. You know, the mind, as smart as we think it is, or maybe we don't think it's all that smart, but the mind is what we seek to find direction and meaning from. But the mind has no truth. We have to drop into the heart. So if you want to walk the path of righteousness, we have to drop down into the heart. That heart is the realm of not knowing. Let's see, how did Michael DeForbes say it this morning? I should have written it down. Non-knowledge, I think is what he said. Non-knowledge. And I could be wrong, but that kind of makes sense to me. The one thing that I've really come to know, without a doubt, is I don't really know anything. I am in that realm of not knowing, as I believe we all are, unless we drop down into the heart and we have this revelation that comes to us. And so I'm going to jump over to verse 16 here to 18. And so remember your purpose in all things and follow the guidance that comes from within. It leads you not so your brother will see how holy you are. It leads you that you may discover the holiness within, that you may bow down at the altar there and let the heart be your loving master, whom you do not question. Let your purpose guide you in all things, and let it be the true purpose of the heart. For the purposes of the world are like the smoke screens that deceive you, promising rewards and happiness, but delivering not. For every purpose of the world brings forth yet another purpose to seek. And so you spend your life seeking and finding not. Empty ye shall die. But the purpose of the heart fills up your treasure chest quickly with joy and peace and hope. So how do we make that transition from mind to heart? Let's see. I've got from the Bible, Matthew 26:22 through 24. If your eye is pure, there will be sunshine in your soul. But if your eye is clouded with evil thoughts and desires, you are in deep spiritual darkness. And oh, how deep that darkness can be. You cannot serve two masters, God and money, or in the King James Version that calls it God and mammon, for you will hate one and love the other, or else the other way around. So that's a pretty good way of thinking of it. Let the heart be your loving master, whom you do not question. So and there again from Matthew 6, therefore I say unto you, take no thought for your life, what you shall eat or what you shall drink, nor yet for your body, what you shall put on it. Is not the life more than meat, and the body than raiment? Behold the fowls of the air, they sow not, nor do they reap, or gather into barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are ye not much better than they? So trust to me is a key. We have to develop the trust that God, regardless of what seems to be going on, so that what seems to be going on is not what is really true. We're programmed. Each one of us is programmed generally by the time we're about 7 or 8 years old, and 70% of our programming is negative. If you're born in the West in a Christian environment, that's going to be your primary programming. If you're born in the East, it's going to be another culture, another program. And so, as we look around the world, we see all different kinds of ways that cultures view life, what's important and what's not important. So, I'm going to go over to Romans here, which speaks to this thought of being in the world and not of the world. So in Romans chapter 14, it says, judgment is the tool of illusion. The judgment was first used as an idea against yourself. Now, what self is it talking about? It's talking about the true self, the truth of who we really are. We're having an experience, and in NTI, it points out that the purpose of, why are we here? It's to have an experience. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that the experience we have is something that we really think we want. There's many people that we all have had experiences that say, well, I didn't choose this. Well, in a sense, on some level, we did. But it's not because we're creating that experience in order to necessarily enjoy it. We're creating that experience to learn this lesson of what's important and to help us be guided back to truth. Judgment is the building block of illusion, and applying false meanings and making illusion real. Judgment of yourself does this to you, and it hides your truth and presents an illusion of you that isn't true. So we all have this self-image that we believe to be the truth of who we are. And we follow that program. If we feel that we're not enough, and each one of us, in identifying with being a separate person, has this thought of not enough. We're not smart enough. We're not pretty enough. We're not rich enough. All of these not enoughs. I remember distinctly feeling when I was young that I didn't fit in. That if people really knew who I truly was, they wouldn't like me. And so that's how I related to the world. Now, was that the truth? As I look back on it, it's like, no, I don't think it was. but that was my perception. That was my perception. So it was, and I think each one of us has something similar in our lives. I mean, there's only one of us. And regardless of what our individual experiences is, it's the oneness that is having all of these experiences. So let's go back to John here, chapter 14. Know that ye seek love, for you do know this, and lay down the will that leads you to seek not for what you want. Trust in God, which is to trust the guidance of one will. Do not fear that which you want, for fear only serves to keep you, since you are that which you seek. And if you think about it, does that really make sense? It depends on which voice you're listening to. If you're listening to that egoic voice, does it make sense to trust in God, which you're not even sure exists? Many people of the world do not really even know if God exists, or if they do believe that God exists, their concept of God revolves around the culture that they were raised in and the spirituality that they are exposed to. So, you can boil it all down. The essence of God is love. Okay, what is love? Love is what we pay attention to. As we pay attention to focusing on that desire to drop into the heart, then we see the world through different eyes. If we reject trusting God, then we see the world from a standpoint of fear and judgment. So, to live in the world but not of the world, we have to drop judgment. We have to look at fear. Leo Guerra and Actualized.com says awareness is curative. Awareness is curative. And so how do we focus on awareness? And in his video, he uses an example of overcoming bad habits. But the whole point of his talk is that if you pay attention, then you will be able to see things differently and behave differently. So if you have the bad habit of overeating, he says, you can't use willpower to overcome that. Just be aware of it. Watch yourself as you eat. And he uses an example of a big, juicy, fat-laden hamburger and fries and all the dressings. And he says, just watch yourself. Watch yourself. Pay attention to how you feel, how your body feels. Feel the effects of that heavy meal on your stomach, how uncomfortable it makes you feel, and etc. And he said, just awareness alone will help you change that habit. Smoking is another one he used. He said, when you light that cigarette, smoke it with awareness. Just focus on it. See how that makes your body feel. And he said, don't just focus on it for a few seconds. Just continue to be present in the now and just be there and focus on it and see yourself, see what it's doing to your body. And he said, just that awareness alone, if you pay attention, will change the way you relate to cigarettes. So, and the world in general. So, Eckhart Tolle in his Power of Now speaks about the power of now, which is really what Leo was talking about. And Sina says, unless you're a Nisargagata. Nisargagata smoked, I guess, until the day he died. But he smoked with awareness. He watched the cancer kill him with awareness. He was aware that the body was in pain. But he was also aware that the truth of who he was different. The true awareness was not experiencing pain. He was watching the body experience pain. So thank you, Sina, for that reminder. So let's go back to chapter 14 in John here. Trust in God, which is to trust the will, the guidance of one will. Do not fear that which you want, for fear only serves to keep you from you, since you are that which you seek. My Father's house has many rooms, which means, and in the Bible's version says many mansions, and that means we are all one. Come with me to the house that is our home. It is the realization of our oneness through the acceptance of our one combined will. So the reality is there's only one will. There's only one spirit that we all share. And there's also only one false will, the will of the egoic consciousness. We think that we have our own separate consciousness, but the truth is we're all sharing the same consciousness, that belief that we are all separate and that we're separate from God, if we even believe in God. So as we continue in that belief system, then it's really about which voice are we listening to. One will is one will without an element of separateness. I am with my Father and my Father, or I am within my Father and my Father is within me, means there is no difference between us and no part of us that is not the same. I am the way, the truth, and the life means all reality is within me, and I am in all reality. So what I am, you are also. I am within the Father, and the Father is within me, and I am within you, and you are within me. You within the Father, and the Father is within you. There is no difference among us. So what that's saying to me is, as I look at each one of you with the thought that we're all separate, the reality is I'm really only looking at myself. But that self is not the George self. That self is the self of spirit. that voice for God. And since God is all there is, we are just an aspect. This conscious awareness we have is just an aspect of the reality of all that is. So you are not separate, and you can do nothing alone. All that you do of me, and all that you do not do of me, you have not done. Therefore, do not fear, for you cannot make a mistake if a mistake must be an action taken apart from me. Be concerned, be not concerned over nothing, for this is a distinction from your joy. Instead, only look to me, and you look only to reality, which is joy, because reality knows not the separateness, and it knows not of nothing. Kind of reminds me of Michael's meditation this morning. You know, one of the themes of his meditation this morning was the question, how can I trust that my children are going to be safe? How can I trust that if I can't help my children, that they're going to be all right? Part of that question implies a lack of trust in God, which each one of us, to some degree or another, experience that lack of trust in God. So how do we continue step by step learning to truly trust God? And we simply need to focus, to continue to focus on holding that desire within our hearts. I'm going to go back over to Romans here in chapter 15. Now that you see I ask for your help, you can be used of me for the healing of the mind if you are willing. In order to be most helpful, you must be willing to lay yourself aside, for you can only be helpful to me when you are under my direction, and I can only direct you when you are willing to surrender to me. Everything is up to you. You are the free Son of God. So what does this tell us? If it's to be, it's up to me, is one way of putting it. So how do we hold that desire? We hold that desire by focusing step by step, focusing on holding that desire to understand truth, that conscious awareness. Conscious awareness. And, on Awakening Together, we have a lot of classes. And the classes basically guide us step by step to understand and to lead us to understanding. I attended the Awakening at Home, and I'm just going to share the 10 skills for awakening at home, which Regina shared with us. I won't elaborate. I'll just share what they were, and because we're getting close to the end of our time here. But the 10 skills for awakening at home, spiritual aspiration. Have you thought about what your spiritual aspiration is? what your true desire really is. Another skill is contemplation. That's inquiry. Contemplating, the written word and just sitting with it and holding that desire that spirit will flow through us and help us to have some understanding. Another skill is mind watching and discernment. So as we watch our mind in conscious awareness, as we watch our mind, we watch the thoughts that come into our mind, we watch the judgment that comes through our mind. We look at the likes and dislikes that come to our mind. If we do it with conscious awareness, there again, holding that desire to understand truth, then that's a skill that can help us. Inquiry and noticing, very much related. What's really going on? Letting go and relaxing. Letting go and relaxing. This is a core skill, which, we can call that rest, accept, and trust. Meditation and self-inquiry. So as we sit with the desire to focus on the holy instant, the now, holding that desire to understand, what am I? Prayer and devotion. The ego cannot transcend the ego. As we focus on prayer and devotion to understanding and being joined with God in our conscious awareness, that's one way to help us transcend this egoic thought of who we believe ourselves to be. Surrender and acceptance. Stop trying to control your environment. The ego's message to us is, listen to me. I can protect you. The world is a dangerous place. And if you focus on your desires in the world, I can help you get those. If we surrender and accept and just allow life to flow, holding that desire that the spirit within us guides us, then that's a practice that can help us step toward being in the world, but not of the world. Another one is surrender and listening. Surrender thinking and listen to the right mind. As we follow guidance certainly uses words, but the truth is, the true guidance is a knowing. It doesn't even require words. It's just a knowing. So, how do you explain to someone what you know about something? I mean, you can use all kinds of words, but they're just symbols. They're symbols that point towards something, but you cannot really share that with anyone else. And last but not least is make a commitment. Commit to something. Don't allow busyness to control your life. You know, I've had the realization that busyness, you know, and busyness can result in what a lot of positive things that we feel is positive, you know, positive activities, positive that helps support us, that helps support our families, that helps support our communities. And yet it can also be a trap. It can also distract us from focusing on that conscious awareness of the now and holding that desire that every action that occurs through us is directed by Spirit. So I see that our time is up. As usual, I always speak too long. I hope I made some sense. And I've enjoyed myself. I hope this was a message that has something in it that has meaning for you. So thanks for being here. And just focus on this thought of what does it take to be in the world, but yet releasing the attachment to the world. Well, thanks for being here. Sana has posted in the chat, Awakening Together does rely upon your donations for support for the programs that we provide at no charge. So I hope that if you feel guided to donate, there's the link to go ahead and do so. We've got about 5 minutes. Does anybody have anything they'd like to share about the homily or anything else?
Hello, beloveds. Good morning. Good morning. Reverend George, that was a great sharing today. The reading was phenomenal. A couple of items that I took from the reading was about the oneness, how there's only one will, and how our acceptance of that one will is the service to the light. So I thought about this recent experience that I had was that, you know, there are a lot of refugees being sent to various cities across the country. And I'll make this quick. I know we only have a couple minutes here. And a lot of those refugees are landing here in Indianapolis. So they're starting to blend out in the city more. So we were in an office recently, and there was two in the office, and they still wear all of the clothes, you know, the covering, and the women have just a little view that they can see out, out their eyes. And at first it feels, I felt the tension, like I felt the separation. I felt it. I felt that separation from me to her. And she was sitting about, maybe, a couple of arm lengths away from me. And I just kept glancing over, like, in somewhat of amazement. I've never seen anyone from overseas up close like that. I've seen them on TV. I've seen them, but never in physical presence. So, but as I sat there, I really did focus in on what you've talked about today, and that's the connection, on the fact that there's only one will, there's only one power, there's only one source. So there's always only one thing happening. And as I sat there next to this beloved from Afghanistan and felt that separateness, I felt that the disconnect. I absolutely felt it. I went inside and I did my very best to let that go, to see it for what it was, to understand exactly, like I said, what you're talking about here today. So it was perfect for me. It was a form of confirmation for me that was absolutely the way to view that, to accept that feeling that I felt of disconnect, of separation, to sit with that, to be with that, and to understand that that was the illusion that you've been talking about today. That is the illusion. So I thank you, my beloved George. Thank you, Toni, for sharing today. I love the reading. I love the conversation, and I love you all. I'll let go of the mic.
Thanks, Reverend Gloria. Yeah, that's, and as you were speaking about that, I was thinking, she was in a foreign environment by being here. She was way out of her comfort zone. She was comfortable with the persona that she presented with wearing of the burqa. And to her, that was the norm. And all of a sudden, she's here in a totally different culture. And so, I can feel that person's discomfort, the same way if we went to Afghanistan, we would have that same feeling. So thank you for sharing that. We are at the end of our homily here, our sanctuary program. So I'm going to turn it over to Sana. And if you'd like to stick around, we have our fellowship time coming up, and you're welcome to stay and participate in that. So thanks, everyone, for being here. I love you all.
You've been watching our online gathering. It happens weekly on Sundays at 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time. To join us live in the sanctuary, visit our website, awakening-together.org. You'll want to click on Online Sanctuary in the main menu, and then in the drop-down menu, look for How to Enter the Sanctuary. Right there at the top of the page is a clickable link. We'd love to see you in the sanctuary and join with you in fellowship. Thank you again for watching. Also, please know that if you'd like to stay connected via the Awakening Together channel here on YouTube, you can subscribe and hit the bell for more notifications. We hope to see you in the sanctuary.